Welcome back to another episode of Mind the Mic. I'm here with another very special guest, the very Kerrod Holland, legendary human being. He's the players trade for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, played over 70 games for the boys, and he's up to a few other things these days. What are you up to, my bro?
Mate, enjoying life after football. Thank you for that, mate. Chasing three little ones around is keeping me pretty busy at the moment, and doing a little bit, stepped into a different sort of role, financial advisor, mate, which I enjoy. So yeah, it's good.
You're the financial advisor. Has that always been in your? Has that always been a goal for you? I know,
Mate, yeah, I was an electrician before I started playing football, so I debuted a little bit later as an electrician. And when I was sort of playing, the NRL's got some really great programs in place to allow you to study. And I didn't want to go back onto the tools post football career. I thought I'm done using my body for work. I'm going to try and use my head. So I stepped into an economics degree while I was playing, finished that off. When I finished, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I didn't have a job. It's a pretty big, scary place to go from being regimented to not having anything. But I stepped into a role with a firm in Newcastle that I got from a couple of different connections, mate. So it was, yeah, I knew that I like helping people and I like money. So it was a good transition into being a financial advisor.
Oh, good combo then, eh? Helping people and money. Let's go, baby. That's the way.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool that you have that a pathway, or you have that support in the NRL to be able to do that. As I've been speaking to a few Super League players, and that doesn't exist over there. So really,
Sorry, I was adjusting this, but yeah, it's mate, it's a great program that the NRL's got, which obviously help us past players get to a position where we can stand on our own 2 feet past the game. I think that there was a lot of, and there still is, there's probably needs to be a little bit more work with that, with the RLPA and the NRL about transitioning players out, right? Because we're all young men playing that game.
Yep.
And if you're lucky enough to play it for, if you get 10 seasons out of it, I think the stats are that you're in the top 10% of all NRL players ever to play, 10 seasons. So if you're lucky enough to get that out, I wasn't lucky enough, but it can be a big transition. So I'd like to see a little bit more work done in that, and players thinking about that post, because, mate, it's, for lack of a better terminology, mate, it's hard, it's tough.
Yeah. I'm speaking to a lot of boys because obviously you're a bit different. You're on the tools. You came, you didn't come straight out of school straight into a professional contract. You know what I mean? You had to work your way to get there. So you at least were used to working. A lot of brothers come out of school straight into footy, and like I was talking to a bro yesterday who's finished footy now, but he's now working as the director of rugby for the club that he was playing at last year in the UK. And his whole thing was, I've never worked a day in my life, and this is my first year in the workforce, really. So, I think you're right. Maybe there could be some more stuff done around that, and maybe just education. Sounds like the NRL does a lot better than other competitions.
Mate, they absolutely do, and they do a great job. And there's a past player transition program which obviously help players get into those sorts of roles. But mate, if you're coming out of school, which most players do, you step into the program, you get regimented, you've got absolutely everything that you need. They put you into these systems, and it's just turn up here, do this, and you turn out at 30 and go, what's the real job? What's the real world look like? Because I'm in the rugby league bubble. Fortunate enough not to start in that, and I had a trade behind me which sort of gave me the background to step into other things. So it wasn't as big a transition as what it would be for some people, mate. But in my industry with financial advice, I see people retire from their jobs and they just go downhill because they don't have anything to go to. Where it's the same for rugby league players. It's not nice to retire at 30 because you lose your purpose, essentially. So it made it tough.
Yeah, 100%. Well, take us back to a younger Kerrod Holland, brother. Where did you grow up? Where were you born? Wikipedia says Singleton, but Wikipedia lies, so I don't want to say that.
Mate, no. We used to change each other's Wikipedia all the time because you can actually get in there and edit it. So it's actually correct. Yeah, mate, I grew up in Singleton, a little small country town just outside of Newcastle. I, just like any young kid that goes on to play professional rugby league, I played footy as a kid all the way through from under sixes. I've got some great mates and that I grew up with in that. Just played rugby league, mate. It was just a knockabout country kid playing rugby league,
Yeah.
getting into mischief, doing all the things, enjoying life. So yeah, I grew up there. I get back a little bit sometimes now. I've still got a lot of mates back there, but
Oh yeah.
it was great. Yeah, I loved it.
What's Singleton like, brother? For someone that's never been there, like, can you tell us, give us a
Mate,
short little spiel on Singleton?
short little spiel, mate. There's nothing there other than the mining industry. So there's lots of big coal mines around. So everyone sort of works in the pits. And if you're a young boy up in that area, it's rugby league, school, and that's it. They're basically the two options. So I think Singleton Juniors, they've got one of the biggest bases in Newcastle for rugby league. I think there's over 250 kids signed up to play their juniors. Which is massive. So it's a small little country town, close to the mines, no beaches, just a typical little country town, mate, that love their rugby league.
Ah, beautiful, brother. And so, how old were you when you left Singleton?
Yeah, I fortunate enough to move down to Newcastle. I did a trade, so straight out of school, I did a trade, electrical. I worked there for 6 years, and then I come and played in the Newcastle Rugby League when I was 21, and did pretty well. So then I got picked up by Matt Lantry, who was the New South Wales Cup coach for the Knights going into the following season, and he said, "Mate, come into a pre-season." I was travelling back and forth from Newcastle and went, "Oh, this doesn't really work." So I made the jump, moved down to Newcastle, and mate, I think that was the back end of 2014, maybe 2015.
So you had already finished your trade by now, or you were still like doing your trade?
Yes, I was a tradesman. I was still working up the valley, still working in Singleton, still working up the valley, but then training for New South Wales Cup of the Knights is in Newcastle, so it's about an hour drive. So that was training 3 times a week. So I'd work all day, 6 till 2:30, get in the car, drive an hour, get the training, train till 8 o'clock at night, drive home, eat my dinner on the way home, go to sleep, get back up 5 o'clock and work again for the next day. It takes a toll. So as soon as I started playing New South Wales Cup, I went, this doesn't work. I've got to move to Newcastle. It's a little bit easier. So I was lucky to pick up another electrical job in 2015 in Newcastle and continued training and playing.
So when you got picked up by the New South Wales Cup coach, were you just playing local footy or like?
Yeah, I was just playing local footy, mate. And back in those days, mate, he actually sent me a letter to my house, and I said yes. He probably didn't even know I was going to turn up on the first day, mate. He sent me a letter. That's how I didn't have a manager. I didn't have anything, mate. I used to. Singleton's a small little country town, and actually the postie. I played football with his son, and he had written on the letter from the Knights, and he said, "Here it is," like it. And I can still remember that. He's like got a smiley face, and he's like, it's coming, because he'd obviously thought that I was a decent sort of player as a kid. So it was nice, so I got the letter in the mail, and away I went.
Oh, so the letter comes, brother. But like, what was that season? Did you have a crazy season or something like that, or?
Yeah, mate, we made the grand final in the local league. I was just playing. He was a coach of another local team that we knocked off to get to the grand final. Scored a stack of tries. Was just a young, hungry kid, and he just picked up that I might be willing to do a preseason. That's all the letter was. He said, "Come down and do a preseason." There was no contracts. Nothing was set in stone. So I went. At the very least, this is going to be a great opportunity because I'll get to train at facilities, and I'll be stronger, fitter for the upcoming season, which is all I thought it was. And we trained through the preseason. I trained really well. I was training really hard. He got to the end of it, and it's what's like a part-time contract with the Knights. So he put that contract in front of 8 other people in my situation, and he said, "Yeah, just sign it and play for the Knights, or you don't. There's no negotiation. It's up to you whether you want to play or not. You've made it to this point. This is the cut-off point. We've culled the 30 others down to the last 8. May or may not play. This is the contract. That's it." And jumping it as a 21-year-old kid, I went, absolutely. If I get to wear the blue and white of my hometown team, I'm in. So signed, away I went.
Yeah, so growing up as a Singo boy, Singleton, were you a Knight supporter?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I grew up in the area. I still remember the 97 grand final, sitting home on the lounge crying because I thought we'd lost. And then Darren Albert was my...
Joey and Darren Albert, eh?
Darren Albert, yeah, absolutely, mate. I seen him cross that line and tears roll down the face as a 5-year-old. So, mate, Newcastle through and through. I loved it. Loved sitting on the hill there in the western side. It still brings back great memories sitting there with my brother and father, doing those sorts of things, mate. Yeah, but Newcastle was home for me, and the Knights were like rock stars to me.
Yeah, 100%. What about now? Like now that you've played, you obviously didn't play for Newcastle in the top grade, but like, do you still have a huge heart for Newcastle, like the Knights, or are you a
Yeah,
Bulldogs fan
I
now?
do. Yeah, I do. I've got a lot of great mates that play for the Knights now. I've got a soft spot, obviously, for the Dogs, and always will. But for a team that I follow, I don't know. It's different once you're playing. Man, I hated the Knights when I was playing because I
Yeah.
was playing on the opposition team basically. So they passed up on the opportunity on me. So I hated not the Knights themselves, but I just hated that I never got to play for my hometown team. So when I was playing them, I loved to play them because it just sort of had like that little bit of a chip to go and try and get one back over the top of them. But
Mm. Oh,
now I've got a young son. He was born last year, mate. So I bought him a Dolphins jersey actually because the Dolphins come into camp last year, and
yeah.
I just went maybe you might like the Dolphins. But as far as supporting a team, mate, it's probably the Dogs or the Knights, the two teams I keep an interest in.
Oh, yeah. Let's go. Are you still watching much footy now, or are you just busy? Busy.
Yeah. I probably didn't as soon as I left the game. Once you're all immersed in it, I just wanted to step away and just get a clean slate. But I'm actually getting back into the routine of loving the game again. I've always loved the game, so it's it's good to watch, good to sit down and watch. And when there's no kids and other
Mm.
things in the way, mate, I will sit down and watch a game. But they're probably the two games that I'll watch: the Dogs and the Knights games.
Yeah, shout out to the Dogs and the Knights, then, brother.
Yeah,
I'm a Warriors fan myself. It's been some
yeah,
pretty
after a while,
solid
yeah.
years. Up the wires, baby, all my life too, brother. All my again, nostalgia, earliest memories. Watching the boys just be terrible, and then all of a sudden, 2001, 2002, they went alright, and '03. So yeah, I just remember being a kid and going to the games and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
it's a funny thing, sports, and you know what I mean. It's just dudes on a paddock, you know what I mean, on a field chasing a bloody ball and running into each other. But
They are,
the
mate, but
emotions, the emotions it can invoke, and the tribalism and all that stuff is. It's just pretty crazy, brother, and cool, and the bonding you can do, like with your father, as you say, or your siblings or family.
yeah,
Um,
mate,
yeah,
it's like a religion, mate. You get your team, you support your team ruthlessly. So yeah, I love it. I love
Yeah, and it's probably like it's been embedded in like human history. Even you go back to like gladiatorial days, like people would go to watch their favorite gladiator take on someone else's. You know what I mean? Like obviously at that time they literally would give their life, but yeah, I don't know, just
Mate. It's exactly that. It's the entertainment side of things, and that's what you sort of got to understand. It's a business and it's entertainment. When you're playing, you don't realize that after. It's probably only after you step away that you sort of realize those sorts of things. But yeah, man, it's big and it's big to everyone, and you got to realize that. And Canterbury's got a fierce supporter base there, and if you're not going well, mate, you know about it.
the doggies, yeah, brother. How did you end up down there, brother? Like you did cup in Newcastle. How many
Yeah,
years?
yeah, mate. So I played 2015. I played for the New South Wales Cup team in Newcastle. It was sort of pretty surreal. So I was still working at that stage.
Mhm.
I played one game round 5 of the New South Wales Cup. That was my first game, and then didn't get picked again until round 12. The New South Wales Cup team for the Knights, and then didn't miss a game after that. And we were fortunate enough; we had a really great season. We won the comp in 2015. I was fortunate enough to play with some great players. I mean, there was Clint Newton, who was retiring at that time. Joey Tarpany, there was Kenny Levi, there was Jack Memo, there was Nathan Ross, there was Carlos
Rasta.
Tumbale, Jacob
Hey.
was there, mates. There was the Mataudia brothers. There was just a whole swath of players that went on to go and play NRL following that season that we had at the Knights, and we were fortunate enough to go on and win it. And I was lucky enough that I think I played 17 games, scored 18 tries, not the big note, and then got named in the Team of the Year, New South Wales Cup Team of the Year. And at that stage, I was still working, so we'd play on a Sunday night on the bus or Sunday afternoon on a bus at Leichhardt or somewhere in Sydney, and then the boys be full time. They'd come home and go, I've got tomorrow off. This is great, but for me, I was back to work Monday morning. So it wasn't until had the end of that season, we won, and I started getting offers actually, and the Warriors were one of them. And I was an inch away from going to the Warriors.
Wow.
At the start of 2016 and 2015, yeah. So they put a deal in front of me where it would allow me to stop working, which is all I wanted. I just wanted an opportunity, even if it was just a training trial deal. I just wanted an opportunity because I knew the work that I'd put in to get there. So they offered me that to go in and step. Wasn't top 30, which is the top 30 still running around now. It wasn't top 30 for 1 year, but the second year was going to be top 30.
Yeah.
So this is going to allow me to step away from being an electrician and go and give this a real crack. I'm in.
Yeah.
And then played one more game and was fortunate enough. Peter Peters, who is a Manly great, he is good friends with Des Hasler, and so
Okay.
I had a meeting with Michael Maguire. I went down and seen South. Went down and met him at Redfern. They were obviously going well at the time.
Yes.
The Rabbitohs, yeah, he offered me a contract there for 2 years. So I went, great. I don't have to travel overseas. I don't have to pick my life up and go to New Zealand. I can stay in Sydney. This is great. And then Peter Peters got in touch with Des Hasler and he goes, mate, Noel Clear will give you a call in about an hour and you'll go down and you'll have a meeting with the Dogs on a Wednesday. And this was Monday. Wednesday, I went down and had a meeting with Noel and Des. Probably one of the distinct things that Des said to me then in that meeting when went through the facilities, seen Belmore Oval, the facilities and everything like that. Des got me in the room, looked me eye to eye, and he said, I'm not here. I don't recruit reserve grade players. And I went, I'm in. So, I remember driving home back to Newcastle from Sydney, and I was like, I think I know where I'm going between the Warriors, the Rabbitohs, and the Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to go down there. And I sort of looked at the team that they had. They had the Morris brothers there. They had Will Hopewadi. They had Sammy Perrott.
James Graham still there? Jimmy Graham still there?
Yeah. Joshy Reynolds was still there. The big grubster. And they had a great back line. And that's who I wanted to go on. Timmy Laffey. That's who I wanted to go and model my game off, basically off the people that were playing Origin, and I wanted to go and learn. And while the Rabbitohs had GI and they had a hosted stack of great players as well, I went, I'm actually going to go to the Dogs because if at very least the Morris brothers play Origin this year, there's a potential for me to have a spot. Chase Stanley was there as well, so there was an outside bat. Like, it was just a great training ground for me, which is I just wanted to go and learn. And if I could learn off the bat, I thought that was going to be good for me. So away I went, mate, and I think I finished up. We finished the last game in October, grand final. I had the meeting the next week, and then it was 2 weeks later. I packed up the work boots, packed up my bag, mate, handed in the work van for the electrical company I was working for, and down to Sydney I went.
Wow, brother. That's awesome. Yeah. And awesome that that one line that Des said too, for that to resonate with you as well, to be like, I don't recruit reserve grade players. Obviously the boys also playing Origin and thinking, hey, I can have a crack here during the Origin period. But people to learn off as well. That's on, brother. Like you just went to go and be a student as well.
Mate. For any young kid, I think it's if you're going to go somewhere, you need to go somewhere where you're going to learn. You don't know everything, and if I can learn off the best, hopefully something rubs off onto me. So, mate, that's all I went down to, and I love J Moz and B Moz. I caught up with J Moz a couple of weeks ago for lunch. So they're mates that I've got for life.
And two of the best players in their position, ever as well.
Absolutely.
Those brothers, man.
Absolutely.
Deadly.
Yeah. And just cracking fellas off the field, included me in lots of things off the field, going for dinners, and, they're playing Origin and playing NRL. They're stars to me. It was only 3 months ago I'm watching them play NRL, and now they're inviting me for dinner, mate. I was starstruck going out for dinner with the lads, but it's all part and parcel of it, mate.
No, yeah, awesome, brother. So that's end of 2015, going 2016, this happens, right?
Yeah. So that's end of 2015. I moved down to Belmore on my own, and I stayed in a little house in a garage actually in Belmore. So I went from Newcastle, beautiful beaches, beautiful city, to going and living in Sydney. But not only living in Sydney, I'm living in Belmore. And I'm not sure if you've ever lived in Belmore before, but it's a different cultural aspect there to them what Newcastle is. And then I was living in a garage. as well, mate. So I had sort of didn't
Just
have
you?
anyone. Just me, yeah. So the house was rented out by two 20s players as well. So the Dogs own the house. They've got a couple of dog houses around Belmore that they go and put their players up. A couple of 20 boys that were living in the house, mate, and I was living in the garage with no TV, no Wi-Fi, just trying to make ends meet, mate. Just it was a yeah. I was training and sleeping. It was about all I was doing.
Let's get, but then hey, prepared you, bro. Like, what was the preseason like compared to the the New South Wales Cup?
Yeah, mate, I was naive. I had no idea what a preseason would be like. So it was probably beneficial for me to not have any distractions, mate. I'd literally go to train as hard as I could, and then just go straight home and sleep. So I was doing a lot of extras with the kicking because I sort of thought Trent Hodkinson had just left at that time. And I was like, there's an opportunity here if I can nail this and be a great kicker in the club. The Bulldogs have always had great kickers from Haslam to
shout out.
And
But like all outside backs too, including yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And and Shubz still around the club. He helps a lot of clubs out. Daryl Hagan, legend of a bloke, mate. So
Kiwi too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Chucky, mate. I just wanted to learn off him as well as much as I could and just get a lot of tips off him, mate. So I was really putting in the time to get my goal kicking to somewhere where I thought that it could be better for the team if given the opportunity. If I was ever given the opportunity, I wanted to nail the opportunity. So I can still remember there was a field session that we had and I would stay back and Freddie, the old manager there, won't leave the field until everyone's sort of off the field, balls and all. So I had a rule that I had to get 5 in a row from each spot that I was kicking at and 3 in a row from the sideline on both sides before I could leave the field. And Freddie, he'd laugh about it now, but he'd get the shits because I'd get 2 in a row from one side and have to get the 3 in a row again because I'd miss one. And he'd be like, just get off the fucking field. Like, what are you like, you're just a kid. You haven't even played first grade. Like, it's hot out here. It's the middle of summer. Like, just get off the field, kid. And I just had a rule that if I was ever gonna make it, I wasn't gonna let that opportunity pass by. So I was putting in a stack of work. So on the field for ages after we had a session, and then I remember coming back in because I was only a kid. Tony Grimaldi, our trainer, Lobby, another Bulldogs great, and an all-round human being, legend of a bloke. He's like, Dutchy, mate, you've got your 3K time trial on the rower and your 5K time trial on the bike to do before you can go and have your lunch. And weight starts in about half an hour, mate. So you just put your times on the board there and away you go. So just done all these extras, but we get no favours off anyone, which is the old school Bulldogs hard style of training, mate, where you've got to put in the work. So it was a real grounding experience for me I'm trying to get better, but you don't get any time off because you're trying to get better. You've got to do what everyone else is going to do. So it was just a good place to learn at that time, end of 2015, start of 2016.
Yeah. Just touching on Chuck and Daryl Halligan, what did he actually teach you, brother? What can you share anything that he taught you that you maybe didn't think of or you didn't understand when it came to goal kicking?
Plenty, mate. I always had a good strike, but never really. If you ever watch or if you ever go back and have a look at like the 2015 stuff when I was kicking in New South Wales Cup, it was I had a great strike, but whether I'd often spray the ball, it could go anywhere. Basically, it's like a golf swing. The kick of a ball. He just really made me focus on a couple of key points, making sure that everything's repetition. So if you can do what you're doing in practice. And it even come down and give me the finer details. And when you get to this level of detail and professionalism about how I would hold the ball, where I would put the ball on the tee, where I would aim it, all the way back down to I'd take the steps. And then I had a routine. It'd be a breath work, visualization, breath work into the steps, and then visualize the ball going through. And then when you take that breath in again, you've already seen it in your mind and you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, bang, kick. And it's just things like that he made me really make it professional, the goal kicking side of things. So yeah, key tips for me is just repetition, and repeating that process. So it didn't matter where you were, if you're at Suncorp, if you're at Dairy Farmers, if you're at ANZ Stadium, or if you're in Wellington. It was just exactly the same. Or if you're kicking at the back of Belmore, mate, it was exactly the same process. So it just gave me some real key knowledge on making it professional each and every time kicking, mate. So he's shout out to Chuck, mate. He helped me, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brother. Shout out to Shook and shout out to you, brother, giving that little knowledge that that tidbit for any young bucks that are up and coming, maybe struggling with their goal kicking.
Yeah.
I caught visualization. Is that a big theme like throughout your life, even in the job you're in now? Is visualization a big thing?
Mate, I still do it to this day. It's a key part. We had like a mindset coach basically at the Dogs for that first year, and we would run through different scenarios. I would do that before each game. I would sit there in silence or with some music that would play the same song over and over again. And he made us think through, and I still do it now before I go and have a client meeting. I'll have my preparation, which stems from this, and I would close my eyes and I'd visualize driving to the ground. I'd visualize getting to the ground, parking at the ground. If it was at ANZ Stadium, if we were playing, walking underneath the stadium, I'd picture opening up the door, the security guard that's there showing him my badge, walking into the dressing sets. The dressing sets look the same. Where's my number? Where's my boots? Where do I put my bag? All the way through to getting my ankles strapped, all the way through to the smell of the deep heat that you smell in locker rooms, to walking out onto the field for training, like for the warm up, then to just the whole process. I'm not going to bore you with the whole process, but the whole process, I visualized that for 10 minutes before I went there. So when I got there, my mind had already seen it all, and I got there and I'm like, I knew exactly what was going to happen. And then it just happened when you're on the field. And Des is big on the processes. So it was just, Desi was obviously the coach at that time, so it was very big on the processes, mate. So it was just, I got there and it was all regimented, and then in the game when you're under fatigue, it's second nature to you. It just happens. Desi always had a saying: if your glass is half empty or half full, don't ever take it. Like, it's no halves. We do everything in fulls, which is foundation package. It was good.
That's an interesting flip on that quote. We do everything in fulls.
Yeah.
I like that, bro. I just think visualization from when you watch like interviews with a lot of, like you say, mindset coaches, but even great athletes like that have achieved like a lot of it, like, they believed that when they were children or whatever, you know what I mean, they visualize it, or even they became a moment in their life where they decided, this is everything that I want to do and be, and this is like, and then all I'm gonna do is not only picture it, because you can visualize all the time, but not action it, and it just becomes a bloody dream. You know what I mean? Like, dreams without actions are just that, dreams. So these people, not only visualization, but obviously execution as well. So, hey, shout out to you, but that's a big one for people. I wasn't actually bored. I was enjoying the journey. I'm sort of gutted you stopped it.
Yeah, but I go through all the way through to, like running out the crowd, the noise. I'd go through it all. I'd go through someone scoring a try. I'd go through my kicking process, my visualization of the kicking process. I'd go through to, what happens if they score, like the down moments as well, standing behind
that's good, brother.
As well, so that so your brain's not all in the good things, but also the bad things. Because if you keep your side to nil, that's great. You're obviously going to go a hell of a long way to win the game. No game's 0-0. So, but just having those key moments, and you get certain cues, whether it's James Graham and he's got those eyes and him looking at you when you're standing behind the post, and all those different things. Semi Perrott was big on the visualization as well. He would obviously, if he ever made a mistake, which is what I picked up from him, if he ever made a mistake, he'd visualize himself not making a mistake again and just cut it from his mind. That was it. Visualize not making it, recognize that he made it, and then gone. Because if you dwell on those sorts of things, you don't have time to, or it just compounds on yourself.
Yeah, hey, another Kiwi gun there, Sam Perrott.
Yeah, another one of the all-time greats, mate. A legend of a player and an even better bloke off the field, mate. Yeah, so it was a great learning ground for me. Curtis Rainer was there, try scoring freak. Kiwi, mate.
WA product, brother, too. Perth.
Yeah,
that's where I reside, brother. Yeah, shout out to Curtis. What was, you speak of Jimmy Graham, brother? What was he like, bro? As a player, as a captain, as a human, like being around? What was he like?
Yeah, mate, he was. You knew what you were going to get out of him, and Dad always spoke about jumping off if you've got a ladder there at 1 to 10, where your game's going to be 10 being your best game, 1 being the absolute worst game you ever played. Him and Aidan Tolman are jumping off that ladder each and every game at 8 to 10s. 8's their worst game, but it's not much. There's not much different. There's not much room for error, and that's why he played 400 first grade games, right? So he just had his process down pat, and he was a hard worker, a hard trainer, and you knew what you felt confidence having him in the locker room because you knew what you were going to get out of him. So that just inspired everyone basically in that locker room because you could look around, see your captain, and go, I know what I'm going to get out of him. And I'm not letting that bloke down, because if you've ever seen a couple of those where he's just got those eyes where he's looking at players, and
yeah, brother.
You don't want to let the man down. But yeah, off the field, mate, he's a larrikin. He's all for the boys. He's great in that aspect of things, and it sort of comes from his bit of his podcast now. He's got different stories about Wayne Bennett and World Cup camps and things like that, where they sort of have a joke. So he definitely does that. He has, used to play jokes on Des and stuff all the time. So good off the field, mate, and you just knew what you were going to get out of him. He was great.
Who was the biggest prankster in your time at the Dogs? Like,
biggest prankster. I don't know. Some would probably say me. I've got an interesting story where we were playing Manly. We were staying over in Manly at the Novotel, and Josh Jackson and Adam Elliott were rooming together, and I was on the room beside them. They went out for breakfast, so I jumped the balcony, come in through their balcony window and lied in between the two beds, waited for them to come back, jumped out when they got back and scared the absolute piss out of them. So I was waiting for about half an hour for them to get back from breakfast. And, when you come back through, it's the morning of the game day, pretty relaxed, just trying to not think about things too much. And there's a fucking bloke in your room, mate. James Graham plays a pretty good joke. I know he just did a podcast with J-Moz where they changed the number plates on J-Moz's car. So there's a few different ones, mate. But you got to have a laugh. It can be so serious there with all your mates. It's a good time.
Yeah, 100%. You got to for sure. Hey, and special shout out to Josh Jackson, brother. Warrior.
Yeah. He's still good mates with Jacko. Got a lot of time for him and his family, mate. He is the godfather of my eldest daughter, so I've got a lot of time.
Oh, you're that close. Oh, let's go. Shout out to the bro, man. I just think I don't think because of a lot of the bleak years the Dogs had, he didn't get credit, bro. That man was a weapon, brother. He was a warrior, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. And he'll probably never really speak about it, mate. But he not only is a warrior, but there was some sort of things that he couldn't train all the time because he not that he had injuries, but sort of juggling a few different sort of things on the go. So there'd be times at the game where he'd be on the physio table, or he wouldn't be able to train just to be in that much pain. And I remember going to games with him, and he literally wouldn't say a word after the game because he'd just be in so much pain, but he would never ever let anyone know. So absolute warrior is probably the best way to describe Jacko.
100%, brother. 100%. I just always thought, bro, this brother's a weapon, man. He doesn't. I never see him get the credit. I know he got the what do you call it? What's called the Wally Lewis Medal, him and Hayne, or whatever that year. But the bro deserved plenty more. And if he went to other clubs in that time, who knows, brother? You know what I mean? What could have happened? You want to win more premierships and stuff. Won premierships and stuff. So
yeah.
Legend, bro. Yeah, we could have used them at the Warriors too. Even a goal kicking center too. That would have been good. Definitely. Well, I guess we haven't really touched on Des, brother. Like one of the great coaches, one of the great personalities of rugby league, brother. Give us a little insight on the great Des. Eh?
Yeah, he is, mate. He's anyone that's ever been coached by Des or had anything to do with Des, mate. He's a how do I put it, mate? He's a very intense human being.
And what
pre-seasons are intense. Everything's just intense around the man, but he knows the triggers for his players to get the best out of him, which is why I think anyone that's played under him really admires him as a coach, because he understands everyone's different, right? And he just understands what's going to get the best out of different players, which is why players want to come and play for him. And which is why players do play for him. Mate, I've got plenty of stories about Desi, mate, and I've not until after he left, I'd sort of thought, I'm a new kid here, my first preseason, and I'm training next to Josh Reynolds on the right-hand side, Josh Jackson, Josh Reynolds, me, Sammy Perrott, because Chase Stanley was coming back from sort of injury at that time, so I'm in that position training. And I hadn't gone through any defensive structures or anything like that. So I just didn't know. Made a mistake. He stopped the whole training session, put it up on the big screen, screaming in my face, probably, I don't know, a metre away from my face, just what don't you understand? And pulled up the whole trainer and sort of not humiliated me, but just it's a fast learning, and that's something that I really respond to. So he wouldn't do that with everyone, but he just understands what works for people, and I'm going like,
oh, okay. He knows
so
who
I
he
know,
can and can't do that too.
yeah, so I know, and I used to do it with Sean Lane as well, because Laney would be training at back row, and he's got certain little triggers with his defensive structure. And it was, for me, it was just, he's an intense human, and you don't know what you don't know how he's going to be, basically. But if you're good to him and you're performing well, mate, he looks after you, which is why I think he had so much success with that crew at Manly, with Watmo and the Stewart brothers and stuff like that. He would look after him, and he knew the best to get out of him.
I think those boys probably responded well to that kind of diz too, eh? Like a lot of those old school boys.
That's it.
What a team too, eh? They had a good period there. Stevie Marai, even Minties was there at the start of it before before he went overseas.
Yeah. So, mate, he's been a great coach for a long time, mate. He's the nutty professor. Exactly what you get out of him, mate.
Yes.
He goes through clips and different things, and he's basically like a scientist, a mad scientist, as they call him, mate. He'll go through, he puts in some work, excuse the French.
Brother, speak as much French as you want, cuz.
Yeah, he'd be the hardest worker in that building, by a country mile. He's there putting in the hours for his team, so much so that, he lived in Manly at the time, and we were playing Manly, but he'd drive from Manly, peak hour traffic on a Friday night, back to Belmore to get the bus with the boys, just so he could get the bus with the boys. Then he'd get back on the bus, go back to Belmore with the boys after everything, and then drive back to Manly, just so that there's no disruptions to the team. It was when we're traveling with the team, Des is on the bus. Doesn't matter if he's living in Manly. That's just the type of. There was
what
no
a man, brother.
Yeah, so mate, he was all for his players and team. Another great story that I'd like to share about Des, just the great man that he is. I believe is we had a players fund, so all promotions and stuff that we do, we had a players fund, and it'd chip into there each and every week, and then at the end of the year when we're having drinks, the players fund would pay for it. Des come down, and a way to build camaraderie with the team is he got Ray Fatalamarina, shout out big RFM, he's still playing for the Dragons. Yeah,
Dragons, brother. Former Warrior, and shout out Sean Lane too, another former Warrior. I gotta squeeze those in there. Yeah, boy, get it in there.
Ray's quite a big and very strong man, and he come down and he said, Ray, do as many pull-ups as you can. I want you to max out. So I don't know, Ray did, probably 25 pull-ups. And then he goes, all right, I'll bet you, I'll put $1,000 into the players fund right now if you can do more pull-ups than me. And so all the boys sort of got around Ray, Des done his pull-ups, don't know how many done, 20 or 30. Mind you, Ray had just done a full gym session and just maxed out his pull-ups. And then this, but all the boys are yelling at Ray, getting around Ray, building like that confidence. And just when it's like when someone puts a big hit on, right? Everyone gets around him and just that energy just lifts and comes through. And all the boys got around Ray and lifted him, and fucking he did more than Des. And Des put $1,000 in there, but he would go and do strategic things like that to build the camaraderie with the team. Ray had just come over from the Warriors, so no one really knew Ray. He's probably doing that for Ray to go, this is how I build Ray up as part of this team. I know I can see the potential in Ray. Let me build him up and part of that team. Let me go and put $1,000 into the players fund. So it's not until after those moments you look back on it and go, I understand why he was doing that. But
see what you're up to there, Dizzy, eh?
Yeah, that's it.
Shout out to the Diz, man, mad scientist up there in Gold Coast land, eh?
That's it. $1,000 for the players fund too, mate. I enjoyed those beers. It was good.
That's it, bro. Awesome, bro. No, 100%. And looking back, brother, it sounds like just a straight legend as well, brother. Like you said, knew how to talk to the players, and what players he could do the stuff like you responded well to the way he stepped to you, whereas other players may not have. So that's I was talking to Elijah Taylor, and he was talking about that he believes it's I don't know if he like everywhere, but in his mind he's pretty much saying I think it's gone of the days of coaches like that can only, like the drill sergeant coaches. Obviously Des isn't just that, but like the drill sergeant coaches don't really go well with this young generation anymore. Like I don't know if you see, because obviously Elijah's still playing, so he reckons that like it's pretty much non-existent, or everyone gets offended these days, he reckons. So It's a lot of it is cuddling. I
Yeah,
wonder
mate.
if
Yeah,
that's the go. What do you reckon? Like, are
mate.
you close enough to the game to know?
Yeah,
Like
it's a
easily?
generational change. I don't know too much now, but you can see sort of the 5 years that I played for when we had Des and he was so intense to sort of when I was leaving and the players and the young players sort of coming through. I'm sort of thinking like, man, I never like, I was yelled at, I was called every name under the sun. That's how I responded. But I'd been through that with the trade, like, that's how I'd learned, growing up as a kid, and sort of learned that way, and that's the way I responded. But and it's probably you can take that if that's the way that it's been right the way through your life, right? Where it's probably not so much with these kids coming through. They probably get cuddled too much at, coming through from junior. So they're stepping into a first grade realm, and the older coaches who are like that, the drill sergeants, have probably find it a bit tougher because their upbringing and the generation is changed, right? Every generation changes. So yeah, I think it's probably harder for them these days. The boys still playing to be able to elaborate on that more than me, but I could definitely see a change shifting there from when I first started to when I was
Yeah,
leaving.
so when you finish,
Yeah.
even like probably not even just the coddling from coaches as they come up. I think society in general, like the pushing, like a lot of things. Everyone's offended about everything these days.
That's it, mate. Yeah, mate. It is, and it's well, not hard, mate. I'm probably the complete opposite, a little bit old school. I just don't care.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm sort of the same too, brother. Being in Sydney and even Newcastle, like, what's
Yeah.
the pressure like from the media, like being a player in the
Mate,
in the world?
when we're at the Dogs, mate, it is massive. The Dogs are one of the bigger clubs in Sydney. They've got a large fan base. They've got a large follower base. They've got the Leagues Club there. They've had so much great success, and they expect success. So the media is definitely massive. And if they can grab a negative headline, it's hard and it's shameful because I've obviously seen great mates go through it with different sorts of things. There was the Mad Monday incident in 2018 where we were on the third story of a hotel, having beers, protected what we thought were protected, but then there was photos up there, and the only way that you can sort of get them was for the only people that can see that is people that were on the Harbour Ridge climb. That's how high you had to be to see up onto the third level up there. And or trees, because there's no buildings around. It's the harbour there. So, and then to get those photos of him on the third story, and then that's on the back page of the Telegraph. I remember driving home in the taxi, and you look at the news app on your phone, and there's Bulldogs players on the back page, and you're like that's only just happened. How do you get there? And there's no media or anything there, but when they go and hide and they see players, it's sad to see. There was a couple of players that were waiting for taxis out the front, fallen off the chair, had spewed around the corner. That's in the paper. Then they go and get fines from the club for like public, doing that in public. And you're like I was at a Bulldogs event, and you guys are
like
I'm trying to
literally.
Go home. Yeah, I'm trying to go home, and I've gone around. I've had too many beers on the end of season trip, and I've spewed because there's a camera there, and it's got tapings on the backside of the paper. Boys got dragged through court systems for that. Got $25,000 fines for those sorts of things, and you're like, it just got way overblown for what it should have been, in my opinion. I can probably say that now that I'm not playing, but it's just, mate, if you can understand what the media does when they grab a negative story, and particularly if you're in a big club. If you're in a big club that gets a lot of clicks, like the Bulldogs, like a club like that, even when the boys went over, the Brisbane boys, and they'll have a little wrestle beforehand, like it got blown away. Yeah. And you just
just the boys being the boys, man.
The boys being the boys, mate. And they're on the beers. They've had a big pre-season. What group of mates don't, after they've had a couple of beers, get together and, have a bit of a wrestle, or there wouldn't be a group of mates in the world that don't do that. And it's because of who they are, and they're a big club, and the way the media machine works, mate. It's hard to see when that happens to your mates, or happens in the personal situation you're in, but you've got to understand who you are, basically.
Yeah, 100%. But I think like even players there, because I don't even think that like the AFL's huge in Melbourne, right? I don't even think they treat their players like the NRL media treat the NRL players, brother. Straight up, because I live in an AFL state, brother, and we like. And they like we like West Coast Eagles. Ben Cousins was one of the greats from here, and he's out the gate, bro. But like even over here in the media and that they don't really paint him in bad light, brother. They like still look at him as a hero. Whereas over there,
It's tough,
Boss.
mate. Yeah, mate. I get it. Mate, I was in that situation. I seen it happen to great mates. It's you just going, this shouldn't even be a story. But anyway, they grab it,
Yeah.
take a hold of it, and away they go.
Yeah, and I was again speaking to Elijah, and he was talking about when I think Reynolds and Packer left the game in Manly at halftime or something because they were injured, and then they
Yeah.
just blew it up in the media. And Elijah's like, "Bro, I've done that before. Like, no one cared about me leaving. What are they?
Yeah.
But because they wanted to get them out of the club or whatever."
Yeah, that's it. Away they go. Yeah, mate. You got to be squeaky's clean in that industry. Then got to know that the media drives most of those things, mate. So try and keep your nose clean.
Yeah, so there you go, young bucks. Keep your nose clean, literally.
Yeah. Absolutely, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, 100, my man. So, your first season at the Dogs, how many games did you get?
It's a great question. I don't know. I remember playing round one. I was playing reserve grade. I didn't make the first grade team. Obviously, stepping in, I didn't think that I was ever going to play round one. Just playing reserve grade for New South Wales Cup. The boys' first grade team beat Manly on the Friday night, round one. I had the following Thursday was Panthers at Panthers on the Thursday night. We were playing New South Wales Cup was playing on the Saturday. Got to about the 60 minutes in, and I got the call to come off the field. And I'm like, I was filthy. I was disappointed. I was like, what's going on? I'm not playing that bad. Sure.
What I get hooked, eh? Getting hooked.
I hooked the first game. I'm going, I'm not even playing bad. What have I got the hook for? Like, this club's hard. And then so I got off the field and I'm filthy and I'm sitting there. We're playing at Henson Park, Newtown, and I'm sitting there with my head down. And I remember the first grade physio come over and he said, "Mate, Des has just pulled you off the field because you're a chance of playing first grade on Thursday night. You need to prepare. You're going to training tomorrow night. You want to play full game." Chase Stanley had tweaked his hamstring, mate, and he's in doubt because it's the short turnaround. And I went, "Oh fuck!" I was like, right. Yeah, rightio, no worries. I turned up to training on the Sunday, and Des, mate, he didn't really give any inklings or anything like that, and I didn't know. And he's just like, "Mate, you ready? You prepared?" Because at that stage, Chase was still touch and go, right? So I didn't know. Sunday, come around on the Tuesday, and my dad lives from Sydney, lives about 10 hours away, and he's like, "Mate, you need to give me some heads up. If you're playing Thursday night, I'm coming. But just let me know." And I'm like, "I don't know. Des hasn't said anything to me. I've got no idea." And the team list, it's always the team list comes out on Tuesday, 5 o'clock, right?
Yes,
So the team list comes out, and he's rang me. He's like, "Mate, you're named. Are you playing?" I'm like, "Well, I think so." And then Des sort of told me after that. So had the debut Thursday night. We were lucky enough to win the game, and then got dropped. So we're not.
What was that like, brother? Debuting, but obviously you knew you were filling in, but like.
Yeah, I was filling in. It was a 6-day turnaround, so mate, I was grateful for the opportunity that I got to play, and I had a goal, and everyone always sets their goal to play one first grade game. I had a goal to play 5. So
let's go.
And that was just to keep me hungry enough to keep going. So I played the 1, and I was grateful, happy. Had an okay game. Lucky enough to kick a goal. A couple of goals at the end of it, and then basically Chase was right to go the next week, mate. So I lost my spot, and then it wasn't until round 6 again where I played again because Chase did his hemi again, and he was sort of out indefinitely from that period. So yeah, I played the first game and round 2, and then not again until round 6. So it was a humbling experience because you go from such a high to Des bringing you back in the next day, mate, and saying you're playing New South Wales Cup next week. I went, "Oh, nice."
No, sweet, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, mate. I don't know how many games I played. It could have been 14, 15 or so. We ended up making the final series that game. I didn't get picked for the finals game. We got knocked out by Panthers at Allianz Stadium. But yeah, I had from going. If we would fast forward, 12 months before that, 2015, I was still playing for Cessnock, which is in Newcastle.
So that's your local team, is Cessnock, brother?
Well, that's in Newcastle Rugby League, is Cessnock. So I played for Cessnock in the Newcastle Rugby League. 12 months beforehand to then, that's at the start of 2015 to the start of 2016. I'm running out with the Bulldogs emblem on my jersey in the blue and white, playing on a Thursday night in front of
How
20,000
cool.
at Pepper Stadium, mate, and 100,000 watching. So it's a pretty surreal feeling for me, and I didn't really grasp what I'd done probably until pull up stumps.
Did your family come down for the game?
Yeah. So there's a great photo of my dad and my brother that I've got. They were at the game, but my mum had surgery on her Achilles that week, so she didn't make it down for round one. For my first game. But yeah, definitely. And then I had I've still got a great photo. I had a lot of group of mates that come down, travel down to Penrith from Singleton. So there's probably 15 or 20 of them there sitting around, or not sitting around, but I've got a great photo of my father and my brother, and then a group of mates that I cherish forever that we sort of rode the journey with me.
Yeah, awesome, brother. They had that whole support system, though, eh? Like, was it mum and dad? Like, who took you to trainings when you're young? Like, without them, you know what I mean? You don't sort of. Like, who took you to trainings and all that stuff when you're growing up, bruv?
Absolutely, yes. So, my dad was coached my footy team as a kid growing up, and then mum and dad split when I was 11. So dad moved about 7 hours away from where I was. So I grew up with my brother and my mother in Singleton.
Okay.
And so it was always mum taking me to games, but mum would quite often take my brother to games. So I would just I'm the kid that's getting picked up by everyone's mates and need to go to training, and you've got to pick this kid up to go and play. So, mate, it was quite often I'd be staying somewhere on a Friday night at a mate's place because on Saturday we're going to play footy. So it's a whole magnitude of people basically, but I can still, all the rep training and stuff like that, it would be mates and or mum taking time off work to get me to training.
Shout out to all of them, and big shout out to mum.
And big shout out to mum. Yeah, absolutely.
Hope our Achilles is going well, brother.
She's on the mend now, mate. Yeah, absolutely. I used to wear a little wristband that underneath my strapping tape that just reminded me of mum and why I would do it. So it was probably one of my big motivators to be better was for mum to try and get her out of Singleton, and she'd sort of raised me. So I've got a pretty big affection for my mum and my wife. Probably won't like saying that, but as they go, mate. But yeah, mate, mum's a big part of my life. So everything that I sort of did back in those early days was for mum until I had a family of my
own. Beautiful, man. You've gone from playing wanting to play first grade as a young buck growing up in Singleton, Cessnock, and then you're playing for them. Just over a year later, you're debuting for the mighty blue and white Bulldogs. But that doesn't last forever, brother. That 4 or 5 seasons, 5 seasons.
5 seasons, mate. Yeah. No, it doesn't last forever. I had an interesting choice to make when I was potentially finish up in that 2020 season. It's the start of COVID, right? So we'd gone through all the pre-season, played round one, COVID hit, comms shut down. There's no one's doing anything. Everyone's locked inside. There's nothing, no movement. And then coming back and playing, but there's no crowds in that 2020 season. That was my last season.
Yeah. What was that like, bro?
It was back to, mate, you turn up at the ground and they've got fake photos of fans in the ground.
That's right.
And they're making noises and they've got the audio system that they're putting through there. Someone's called the drive. It's these fake crowd noises, man. It's a different experience. Where you go to ANZ Stadium or a Combank Stadium, there's 40,000 seats and there's not one person in any of them, and it's just I don't know. It felt like I was playing back in Singleton. Like it felt like there was just no one there. It didn't feel like you were playing professional rugby league because there was no one there. Right? It just felt like you were in training. Like there's just no one there. So mate, it's different. And at that time, I had a deal to go over to Salford. I think
Salford Red Devils.
Yeah, Salford in overseas in the Super League. So, but that was a 3-year deal that I had to go over there, and I always wanted to go over and play overseas. Go and experience it. I went, this is going to be great. But at that stage, I could get over on a working visa and fly over. But the flights, they cancelled all the flights. So I could get over as a working visa, but my wife couldn't and my daughter couldn't. And my wife was pregnant with our second child at that time. So if I was going to fly over in November of 2020 at the end of the NRL season, go over there for pre-season, my wife was due in December. and they're like, she's not at work, she can't get a working visa, she can't go over there, and we can't fly your daughter. Your wife's pregnant, she can't fly anyway, but no idea. It could be 12 months, it could be 24 months that before we can get a flight over, and you can't come back for a discretionary flight. So once you're over there, you're over there.
Wow.
So
that's what, like, sort of. So, but you were on. You like that was you were off. Like otherwise,
and then I sort of made the decision that I'd been selfish in myself for the last 5 years. My wife had sacrificed a lot for me to have a professional rugby league career, and I've come to a stage where family comes first for me. So I made the decision to come home back to Newcastle, give that dream away. Basically, I probably earlier than what I would have liked, but my family always comes first for me. So I give it away, come back for. If knowing what I knew now, and she could have come over after 6 months, then potentially the outcome would have been different. But you don't know what you don't know, and I wasn't willing to take that risk.
Yeah, 100%, brother. So, like, in a way, COVID, fuck that. In a way, but
mate, it did, mate. But it's probably a blessing in disguise, because I'll think back on that time and I had such a great time with dogs, mate, and it allowed me to spend some really quality time with my family, my kids growing up when they're little, which you never get that time back anyway. So, mate, I didn't think I'd play one game. I was a sparky. I'd given away the dream of playing in the NRL to go and get a trade, and it was only I was lucky enough to get a second crack, mate. And if I could have played one game, I was stoked and over the moon. I was fortunate enough to play over 70, play with some great mates, got some great memories, and there's not too many kids that ever get to say that they get to play in the NRL, mate, and I was lucky enough to get there.
Yeah, no, beautiful, brother. Hey, I got a couple of questions for you before we skate out of here, though, my brother. Is that all right?
Far away, absolutely.
All right, brother. You played centre pretty much most of the time, man. Like, did you play centre? Yeah. So who was the? Give me the top 5 people that were the hardest for you to play against. You know what I mean? Doesn't have to be at centre. It can be anywhere. Like, you think like, oh, they were tough to play against.
Mate, at that stage, and he's still killing it at this stage, probably my hardest competition was Joey Manu.
Let's go. Another Kiwi.
He's a freak, moves well, big, strong, fast. He is. Anytime I was coming up against the Roosters, and they were dominant through that 17, 18, 19 period, right? Yes. And it was a nightmare coming up against Joey, man. He made me look silly that many times. It's not funny, man. And he continues to do it, the blokes these days. Even that flick pass he had for the try in Vegas, and you're just like, man, how does anyone do that? How do you defend that? So it's not just I don't feel that bad. Man, being made look silly by Joey, man. He was
Joey Manu.
Man, does everyone
is he your top of the pile, like when it came to who you had to guard was number
when I was coming up, mate, he was. James Roberts, he was killing it at that stage too.
Jimmy the Jet.
Jimmy the Jet, mate, he was an absolute flyer. Latrell was playing obviously still in the centres. So, mate, I'd come up against some great centres, and then those three would probably be Joey, Manu, Jimmy the Jet, and probably Latrell were the 3 that I hated the most coming up against, because they're a big challenge for me. And then fullbacks as well would be predominantly who I'd be tackling. So Benny Barber, 2016 when he was at the Sharks, mate, when I was coming through, he made me look silly. We were winning the game against the Sharkies when they went on that massive run. They ended up making me looking silly. They scored in the corner. Jimmy Maloney kicked the goal with 2 minutes to go, so that hurt. Otherwise, we would have beat the Sharks on that run. But Benny Barber, mate, he was very elusive, and probably it's a combination between RTS when he was at the Warriors, Roger Turbasashek, and Tom Trbojevic. Mate, both just moved and quick, and it's like, man, how do you tackle these blokes? I was just being an outside back, and you just have to be on, because there is a multitude of blokes coming at you, and they're quick and big and fast and move and can offload and got to fend, and they're all hips and legs and steps, and mate, it's a nightmare defending in centre, mate. If you are a good defensive centre, mate, I'll take my hat off to you, because it's a tough place to defend. Usually all of them are one-on-one, so if you make a miss, the other team generally scores. So if you fuck up, the other team scores, and it's on you. So, man.
Who do you think's the best centre defender, like in your time? in the game?
Mate, I learned a lot off J-Moz. He was a very
Oh
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
100.
I tried to model a lot of my stuff off J-Moz, and he helped me massively about where to position myself for different types of people and players and positions. And it was just an understanding that I wasn't going to get anywhere else. And but probably two things that helped J-Moz is not only his knowledge, he knew a hell of a lot and where to be, as you get from playing over 200 first grade games, right? And he was the origin centre playing against, Greg Inglis, probably the greatest centre to play in that Queensland jersey in that time. J-Moz was the bloke marketing, so he knew how to, if that's not the toughest challenge in the toughest arena, I don't know what is. So he had the battle wounds and the battle scars to be able to teach me those sorts of things. So he was probably the pick of the bunch and paramount. Probably in today's game, I think Stephen Crichton. I know he plays for the Bulldogs, but when he was at the Panthers, his defensive reads and he doesn't miss a hell of a lot, and he makes a lot of good reads. So he's probably, if I was a young kid and I was a centre and I wanted to get my defence right, I would be looking at how he defends these days.
Yeah, the new captain too, Bulldogs captain, hey? Captain
Crichton. Yeah, mate. Hopefully he does some wonderful things.
Yeah, 100%, brother.
Yeah, he's got a great work ethic from all reports, mate. I've never met him, but yeah, mate, hopefully he does great things there.
And played a key role in, three chips as well. You know what I mean? If he doesn't get that intercept from Cody Walker, do the Rabbitohs storm home? You know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah. He scored that try against the Bronx and sort of kicked it all off. Last year as well. So man, and his defensive presence on the field, right? If you can have that on the field and keep tries out, mate, it's massive for the team morale, confidence, and you just build. So
yeah. Beautiful. Hey, bro, if you could eat only one meal for the rest of your life, what meal do you choose?
One meal, man. I'm a big steak man. I'd probably go hard without my steaks.
Yeah. How do you have it?
Medium, mate, but I really like a cattleman cut, like a real thick, big steak, big, nice, juicy bone out of it. Man, if I could probably nearly live on them things all my life.
Yeah, there we go. Steak it is, cousin.
Yeah.
I was speaking to one of the bros I was speaking to yesterday. He chose chocolate. Let's go that chocolate. Yeah, that was Jake Webster. I don't know if you remember him. He used to play for the Melbourne Storm and Titans and the Kiwis as well. Chocolate was his choice. Yeah. Another question I like to ask people is like, well, a lot of the time it's being a young buck and growing up, but you went and got a trade. So, but I guess it's still, you can still answer it, because even when you did come into grade, you weren't guaranteed a spot. So how did you avoid temptation of like alcohol, partying, and all of that while trying to pursue your career as a Bulldog and make the team?
Yeah. Man, I'm not gonna lie. I love to have a beer, but it was more around. I love the social aspect of getting around my mates. I wasn't going out and just getting on the beers for getting on the beers. Always solely focused and highly driven on getting to where I wanted to get to. But we would go out and have beers, and I found that as a way that I wouldn't have a beer to relax. I would have a beer to be social with the boys. Distraction wise, how did I get there, man? It probably comes back down to, this is going to probably sound cliche, but your why and why you want to do it and how you want to get there. And for me, it was my mum. And that's why I wore that wristband there. And it was everything that I did, I was doing for her. So I had a greater purpose than myself. So it was, I would look down in times of hard when we're going through pre-season. I had this little blue wristband on my wrist, and just reminding me of mum and why I was there. So yeah, if you've got a greater purpose and a greater why, it's more powerful than the alternate, right? If you don't have something that's more powerful, you're going to fall into the trap of doing the wrong thing or getting down the wrong path. So yeah, for me, man, it's that integrity of what you want to do and having nothing else in the way. Yeah, nothing's guaranteed in life, and you may only get one opportunity, so you better make sure you're ready for
it. Hey, that's it, brother. Eminem said it, eh? One shot, one opportunity.
That's it.
One moment.
That's it. Yeah.
If there's a young player comes to you and he has all the potential in the world, and he says to you, Kerrod, give me one piece of advice that's going to help me on my journey to becoming a rugby league superstar, or what wisdom do you give to him?
Yes, it's probably really easy, mate. It's hard work. There's nothing that's going to substitute. You can have all the ability in the world, mate, but if you don't work hard, you're not going nowhere, and you don't get the respect of not only your players, which is probably paramount to anything, but you don't get it from your coaches, so you'll never get that opportunity. I've seen it a multitude of times, right? I'm definitely not the biggest, I'm definitely not the strongest, and I definitely ain't the quickest.
Mm.
And for me to go out and play the NRL, there was guys that were way sweeter than me, had so much more potential, so much more. You know, I didn't even make the Knights, made no Knights junior teams at all, not one.
That's
No
crazy, brother.
teams, none of them. I was just a kid who loved playing football, but I found myself in the peace that I could work hard, and it put me in a stead to be in the position that I was in. So, mate, like, you know, when I was first out of the game, I get it all the time. You know, what can I do to get there? And I just said, you know, what are you doing? How you like, you know, come to a time where I was working, but I was training. I've been training morning and night, and I was training 6 days a week, and I loved it. I love training. I still love training to this day. You know, I'll go on runs, and I'll make sure that I'm still busy, and keeps my mental, more than anything, keeps me mentally fit, I suppose, rather than the physical side of things. I don't do it physically now. I do it for more mentally, especially with 3 kids, mate. It's draining. I know you've got 3 kids as
Yes.
well. So
Shout out to the 3 kids, brother.
yeah,
100%.
it's tough. I've got a 5, 3, and a 1-year-old, mate. So and trying to run a small business, it's plenty of challenges there. So for
Yeah,
me, the hard
definitely.
work is critical. You can have everything, but if you don't got that hard work, man, you may as well give away now.
Yeah, sort of the same. I got a 7, a 4-year-old, and a soon-to-be 3-year-old, brother. So yeah, pretty
Mm-hmm.
hectic, pretty hectic.
Yeah, it is, mate. It is. Yeah, yeah,
But and you think about it too, because I've pretty much like, like for like a lot looked after them for like for a lot of the, especially the 3-year-olds a lot life. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
just doing the breakfast, lunch, dinner, all that
yeah.
stuff. It's interesting. I think like, man, like you think like people think working, on the tools for 12, 14 hours is bloody hard. Bruh, raising kids is hard as, you know what I mean?
It's a constant battle for me, man. It's a constant battle, and there's probably nothing that'll be my greatest success ever is to see my kids succeed. Far outweigh
Yeah,
anything that I could ever do personally. But I make
yeah,
sure that I'm going to be the best father that I'm going to be, and for me to be the best father that I'm going to be, I need to be on mentally. And for me to do that, I need to make sure that I'm working out because that helps me mentally, mate. So, mate, I get up at 4 a.m. or 4:30 most mornings and go for a run because it just sets my day up massively. And it's chalk and cheese night and day the difference between me mentally having a good day if I go for a run and if I don't go for a run. It's
yeah.
not even close, mate. So it's a non-negotiable for me working out in the morning because it sets my whole day up for my kids. And I think I was listening to a podcast
Okay.
and there was Des Bryant on there, the Cowboys wide receiver.
Cowboys wide receiver. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he had on there, they were asking him, you know, his mother had him when he was 13. And they said, how do we break the cycle for,
Or when she was 13.
when she was 13, yeah. How do we break the cycle for African American families so this doesn't happen, so you don't have that happen? And he's got a real key takeaway, and you can go and watch the video. It's out there. I'll send it to you after this as well, so you
Yeah,
can
please do,
link
brother.
it so people can have a look at it. And it's a constant reminder for me that the key message out of there is don't don't shout at your kids of a morning and expect them to have a good day. Don't yell at your kids before they go to sleep and expect them to have a good night's sleep. You're the constant voice. You're that inner critic to your kid. The things that you do to them, that's who they are. And
how do you commit to breaking that cycle to ensure, your kids don't have to follow in those same footsteps? Like, what are the steps? What do you do?
Let me read something to you real quick. It mean a lot to me. Man, I ain't trying to cry, but let me read something. It's been on my phone for about, since I met y'all, it's probably like 6 years, Just say, break generational curses. Quit yelling at your kids before they go to bed and expect them to sleep well. Quit yelling at your kids in the morning right after they wake up before school and expect them to have a good day. You set the tone for your children. You set the tone for You set the tone for your voice. They will always remember in their heads. You become the inner voice. Don't be the inner critic. Speak life, speak love, speak bravery, kindness and hope. Speak wisdom and truth. Most of all, listen to your children. I never had none of that. I get that to mine. And that's my number one priority. I follow that. That's heartbreaking.
And I went, fuck, that hits home with me. And I don't want to yell at the kids in the morning and expect them to have a good day. I don't want to yell at them before they go to bed and expect them to have a good night's sleep. It's just not going to happen. So I don't want to be that inner critic. So the way that I set myself up personally each day sets my kids up. And I've got a rule that I have with, not a rule, but I drop my kids off to school 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Lucky enough, I'm in a position to allow me to do that. And my daughter's just started primary school, and there's 3 key things that I go through with her each and every day, that I wanted to have and I wanted to instill. And she can't grasp the concepts yet, but she will one day, and she'll understand that Dad really wanted me to know this. It's an integrity, and being integrity is doing the right thing when no one's watching. It's being a leader, which is thinking for yourself, and it's having confidence, which is believing in yourself. And I get her to say it, before I drop her off at school, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if as a father, mate, it's my passion now to make sure my kids, do really well in life. And if they can have those 3 values and live by them, mate, I'll be a very happy man.
Yeah, I love that, brother. And I love that. And I heard a cool quote a while back saying that from a billionaire, saying that the true mark of a successful man is his children wanting to hang out with them when they're older. And I think with what you're doing, brother, your kids will definitely want to, love their dad. And I hope that's something that I pursue too, is for my children to not only be successful and be all they can be, but when I'm older, they want to come and kick it with me, and I could be the favorite granddad and all that stuff.
Man, absolutely. Yeah, probably the only caveat to that is I've got 2 girls and 1 son, mate. He's probably going to get peer pressured a hell of a lot in playing rugby league.
Hey, well, that's fine too, but there's nothing wrong with a bit of rugby league, Without rugby league, you and I aren't sitting here having a chat, are we? Lastly, brother, obviously you're in finance. Is there any? Can you give one piece of financial advice to anybody, whether it's a player that's just retiring or any human that's just unsure of how to navigate finances or anything like that?
It's one of the trickiest periods, and there's been lots of studies done on this, right? And half of all stress in families is 50% of it comes from money. So it's why I wanted to get into it, is take away that stress for people. And a lot of people don't get taught. There's no financial literacy, or there's no education in schools, so people just don't know, right? So it's hard, and I get it. For me, it was very humbling to go on a big NRL wage to come back to my first contract was, when I was working here, was $50,000. And that's before tax, so it's about $800 a week, and rent was $550. So for me to provide for my family, you feel like a failure, right? And it's if you don't set yourself up for success. So be smart. A couple of key takeaways: be smart. Personal finance is easy, easiest thing you can ever do, but hard to implement. If you can spend less than you earn, save and invest the rest, you'll do really, really well long term. Doesn't matter what you are, who you are. If you can spend less than you earn, save and invest the rest, you do well in this world. But it's hard to implement. Easy to understand, hard to implement.
There you go. Or just reach out to Kerrod Holland and he'll tell you.
Mate, I'm always open. Line's open. Find me. I'm on social, mate, but
hit him up, man. Hit him up. Give him a nice fee. He might even tell you a bit more. Let's go. Gotta feed those kids, brother. Gotta feed those kids. Yeah. But all right, my brother. Well, I'll leave it there, and I just want to thank you, brother. Time's the most valuable commodity we have as human beings, and you spoke on that yourself. So thank you for sharing your time with me and anybody that watches or listens to this for years to come. It'll be on every audio platform, be on YouTube and that. So yeah, thank you, my brother. And it's first of all, I just want to say too, when you liked my reels, I was like, bro, I already messaged this guy. And when you messaged me and said, bro, it resonated with me that you're a father of 3. That I just thank you, brother, and I look forward to hopefully one day when I'm over your neck of the woods, maybe we can go for a cold one or even a warm one, like a cup of warm drink or a cold drink. Either one,
absolutely, mate. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, mate, and thank you for being respectful with your message, mate. As I said, it resonated with me, so appreciate you having me on. It's been great. I love it, mate, and mate, I wish you all the best in everything that you do with your podcast and your kids and everything like that, mate. So all the success to you, mate, and much love, mate. If you're over this way, hit me up.
Yeah, hard. And hey, hopefully this isn't the last time. I plan on doing this till I'm old and grey, bro. So hopefully this isn't the last time the great Kerrod Holland comes on and shares some wisdom. Might be more finance next time, or maybe more life and updates. But yeah, keen, bro.
Absolutely. All right, no problem, mate.
Much love, my man.
Thank you so much for watching this full episode of Mind the Mic. It takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to create these episodes. So to know that you've watched and listened to the entire thing means the world to myself and all our hosts. If you could, before you leave, please hit the subscribe button and share this episode out to as many people as possible. It would help us so much. Thank you again to everybody that's still here, still watching. Thank you for all your comments, all your shares, all the DMs. Appreciate you all. Make sure you follow us on every platform. Have an awesome morning. Have an awesome night, depending on where you are in the world. Mind the mic out.
Oi, have you hit the link in bio yet?
Watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all streaming platforms.